And we've reached the second episode of this season of Peacemaker. It was an episode to show the aftermath of the death of Chris from Another Earth. It further develops the current antagonist, Rick Flagg Sr., but mainly it showcases the whirlwind of emotions that Chris is going through, whether it's the shock of having killed his other self or not being able to be with Harcourt again. In today's video, we're continuing the saga to analyze all the episodes of this second season of Peacemaker. And let me tell you, it's a really good episode involving Peacemaker. There were at least 2 excellent scenes with Peacemaker here, but it also had its downsides, like the Argus agents who are a bit clumsy, right? So let's analyze the character arcs and summarize what's happening, because this second season of Peacemaker is still quite good. The episode starts with a scene that took place 8 months ago when Rick Flagg Sr. was appointed interim head of Argus. We even have the scene where he takes his oath at the White House. By the way, this news network, KWUE, is the same one that appeared in the first season. Flagg Sr. immediately shows that he has differences compared to Amanda Waller, for example, using the agency's structure for personal reasons. It's the file, the report of his son's death. I speculate here whether all this motivation, this revenge that he's practically enacting, will end up being his downfall by the end of the season. Upon opening the extremely detailed file, we have flashbacks from the movie The Suicide Squad. And hold on, everyone, this doesn't mean that the entire movie of The Suicide Squad is canon. James Gunn has already stated that what is canon is the scenes that appear. This is important because this flashback does not canonize Harley Quinn from the DCU. This entire mission could have happened without Harley Quinn. Harley, Ratcatcher, Bloodsport, they will only be truly canon when we have a flashback with them. By the way, this flashback from the Suicide Squad just reminded me how wonderful that movie is. The entire fight between Rick Flagg and Peacemaker is perfect. It's incredible how James Gunn developed the rivalry between the two in that film, the birth of a friendship, and then the betrayal. Man, that adds weight to this fight that is spectacular. After reading the report, Rick Flagg Sr. asks for Peacemaker to be monitored at all times. And this is what I mean by him acting out of personal interests. This is purely revenge against Peacemaker. That scene in the trailer where Rick Flagg fights Peacemaker is likely to be in episode 3 or 4. And this scene serves to develop Rick Flagg Sr.'s motives, but I also wonder if there's a second reason why James Gunn showed this flashback. Is there any possibility of Rick Flagg Jr. appearing? Because there's an entire other Earth. He could be alive. There was even a theory circulating online that Harcourt's current boyfriend is Rick Flagg Jr. from that Earth. Maybe this is the second reason why James Gunn wanted to show the flashback of Rick Flagg Jr., not just to motivate the father's actions, but also to show that there was a rivalry with Peacemaker. Now, that concern I mentioned in the previous video about this series' antagonists, did it persist in the second episode? And my answer is, unfortunately, yes. The episode helped to slightly raise the level of threat from Rick Flagg Sr. You understand his feelings more. In terms of motivation, it's impeccable. That's right, he wants revenge. But still in this episode, I can't see him as a significant threat, especially because in this episode, he sent a troop to invade Peacemaker's house, that there was no one there, just Eagly. That troop is almost like the troop of clowns. So I feel like him as an antagonist, as a greater force, he's not managing to hold it together, you know, to give that good tension to the series. But let's see the upcoming episodes. We know there will be a fight between him and the Peacemaker at some point in the season. I think he might grow. Then we return to the present day. Chris panics because he killed his counterpart from another Earth. He hides the body of the other Chris and calls Vigilante for help. One thing I think this episode highlighted is how killing his other self affected Chris. I mean, he's killed several people before. He's used to it. But killing himself really hit him hard. The next day, Adebayo visits her ex's house to pick up some of her things. However, she finds Kia, who is not at all happy to see her. The two have a small argument that starts from defining whether they broke up or just took a break. Kia was mad at Adebayo because she exposed Amanda Waller and ruined her plans to move to Gotham City. At that moment, I was like, my God, who makes such a stupid plan? Moving to Gotham City? Are you crazy? Who wants to live in that godforsaken place where a clown releases gas in the river and you wake up with a smile on your face? The worst place in the world to live. She should be grateful to Adebayo because she can still live in Evergreen. So we see that this couple doesn't seem like they'll get back together, because even when Adebayo tries to say she still loves her, Kia just ignores it. Next, there's a scene where Harcourt is approached by a woman in the market. She thinks she's getting beaten by her husband or something like that. And this creates a whole discomfort because that's not at all what happened. Harcourt fights back, thinking the other woman is projecting onto her. Everyone is watching. Even the guy who works in the store, who is called Beaker, gets caught up in it. And okay, the Beaker joke is funny. The guy really looks like Beaker. Harcourt is at the market to buy some things for the party she's throwing that night. On her way out, she sees a sign saying there's a job opening there, and it's just when she needs money. And how cruel, just when she finds a place where she can work and earn the money she needs so badly, she makes such a scene and practically ruins any chance of working there. We cut to Economist, who is still watching Chris's house. A new character, Argus Agent Fleury, appears. He was assigned by Sacha Bordeaux to support Economist because, well, he's not very trustworthy since he's friends with the Peacemaker. Fleury is meant to be a more comedic agent. Almost all his lines go to that stereotype of the coworker who says a lot of things that are, not socially accepted or tolerable in a workplace. The characters complain about it, but he keeps going. And that's supposed to be the joke, right? His uncomfortable humor. I think it's funny at first, but since he keeps repeating the same type of joke throughout the episode, it gets a bit tiresome, you know? Just once would have been enough, but the Pokemon joke is good. Now, that joke about the blindness of birds is very funny. I know it's a pretty silly thing, right? Even for the Peacemaker series, it's too silly, but I found it really funny. At this moment, Adebayo visits Chris to talk about the quantum portal. She reveals everything she learned from Economist. The Peacemaker is still very nervous about what happened and doesn't know how to process it all. That's when Adrian arrives, who is there to clean up the mess from the previous night. And the vigilante is outraged for not being invited to the little party last night. Chris activates the quantum portal, which alerts Argus again. They decide to act at night, when Chris and the others will gather at Harcourt's house. All of this is, of course, omitted from Economist because, again, he is not trustworthy. Meanwhile, Peacemaker and Vigilante get rid of the body of the other Chris. This scene was made for Adrian to shine, and indeed, I find it quite funny. It has a bit of humor like The Boys, right? Man, Peacemaker's face when he's dead on the floor with one eye closed and the other bulging. It's all meant to be very funny, and I think this scene was hilarious. The humor was so heavy in this scene that even when Peacemaker's phone falls after he dies, I thought they were going to use Chris's decapitated head to unlock his phone, but then James Gunn didn't take the joke that far. Of course, since the two look alike, it's unnecessary to unlock it with the other guy's head, but I thought they were going to make that joke. Now, Chris's face is priceless. I mean, let's look at the situation. He's dismembering his own body. This season's Chris is quite different compared to the first. For me, this reflects the season's theme more. In this very scene, he barely responds to Vigilante's provocations, and he's much more serene. Quite different from the first. Some may hate it because, well, it diminishes a bit of that scatological humor from the first season, but it also has its positive side, especially because it allows John Cena to shine as an actor, and I think he's performing very well in these episodes. In the first season, yes, he had some serious scenes and acted really well there, but here we're seeing a different type of feeling, a different kind of pain. It's also mixed with a sense that he is completely lost in what he's doing with his life. Later, Chris, still downcast, looks at the photos on his other self's phone. He becomes even sadder upon realizing that the other Chris was dating Harcourt, and there are a bunch of romantic photos between them. So, that must be a really bad feeling, right? You grab your other self's phone and see that he's dating the person you love most in the world. But I think this scene would have had a much bigger punch if they hadn't revealed in the first episode that Harcourt is his ex. In fact, I don't think they needed to mention that. In the first episode. They could have saved that information for this episode, right? For him to discover it. Later, Argus's team is called in to invade the house. Again, Fleury creates unfriendly nicknames for each of them, and there are more James Gunn-style jokes with the characters discussing housewarming gifts. Okay, but I found this scene funny because it's totally random that a bunch of tough guys is discussing what gifts you should give if you visit your friend or not. And finally, the group meeting happens. Harcourt hides what happened as best as she can. And her friends don't make much of it. The only person who really understands what happened is Peacemaker. Again, he tries to pull Harcourt to his side, show his charm, show how much he cares, but he fails. And all this party part was great. I confess that I never really rooted for the Peacemaker and Amelia Harcourt couple. But this scene where the two talk while looking over the city, what happened to her at the bar, that was the scene where I saw them connect as a couple. because they are similar. They understand each other. And that's my big question about them, because it seems like Harcourt really doesn't have feelings for him. Sometimes it seems like she does, and sometimes it seems like she doesn't. And all of this adds even more depth to this scene, because you see that Chris is making his move, so to speak. And he's not doing anything wrong. He really shows that he cares. He tries to talk to her in a nice way, but she really pulls away from him. And the party itself has great jokes, like the one about the beer. Poor economist can't catch it in the air. Man, that joke was really good. They put that joke in the trailer, included it here, and I laughed again. There's also a joke about the vigilante living with his mother. And they make a reference to the movie Psycho. I don't think they made that joke for nothing, because, well, in the trailer we saw that at some point this season, they're going to visit the vigilante's house. This good joke is also a setup for what's going to happen in the future. Another interesting point about the party is how all the characters seem happier when they're together. And it's nice to see Adebayo giving advice to economists. Adrian dancing just for the heck of it. It really is a group with great dynamics, and their lives may be a mess, but they still find that moment to have fun because they love each other a lot. And there's the vibe of the party, the music that James Gunn chooses to play. All of this conveys that they are great friends. Meanwhile, the Argus team invades the Peacemaker's house looking for the portal, but they are surprised by Eagly, who has his moment to shine and even rips out an agent's eye. This is where the payoff for the bird blindness joke comes in. I still find it a bit ridiculous, but the scene itself is very good. Eagly then defeats everyone and protects his home with honor. Now, that Argus team is pretty useless, right? I really thought all those characters that showed up were anything but great. Maybe that's why it's extremely satisfying to see them fail in the presence of Eagly, and there's something comforting about seeing bad characters being taken down by an eagle. And that scene where Eagly walks in slow motion while a badass rock song plays is just awesome. Eagly is amazing. Chris comes home way too drunk and frustrated for not having been able to be with Harcourt again. He has a nice moment with Eagly. And a detail here is that Peacemaker has a little Peacemaker doll on his bed. He gives in to his desires and sends a message to Harcourt from the other Earth. But since the message can't be sent, he has the brilliant idea to go there. And as soon as he enters, his message is answered. And that's where the episode ends. And let's be honest, it was a rather lukewarm episode, more or less what we were expecting to happen in this episode. Still, this episode had at least two great scenes. So the scene where Eagly attacks the Argus officers, which I loved, and everything involving the party was excellent. I loved the dialogue exchange between Harcourt and Peacemaker. The episode also developed Adebayo and a little bit of economist involving his work frustration. I still think the antagonistic part of the series is the weakest narrative element so far, especially that support team that Rick Flagg Sr. sent. Luckily, in the upcoming episodes, that team should receive an upgrade, not to mention there's still a mystery involving Peacemaker's father and brother from the other Earth, whose participation was very small in this episode, but I still believe they will be the real villains of the season. Well, time for the rating. I think it was a good episode, below the first one. For me, the fairest rating is 7.5, and this was also an episode with few references, right? At most, the TV channel and the mention of Gotham. An episode with few references. Not that this is a problem, but it's curious. But that's it, folks. Please comment below. And don't forget to click the like button and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.